A very warm welcome to all of you. I'm Sanjay Kaul, heading the cardiovascular ultrasound business for G Healthcare in South Asia. I sincerely hope that you, along with your family, are safe and doing well. The vision of G Healthcare is to impact lives in the moments that matter. And what moments are more precious than when a patient is seeking care and treatment for his ailing heart? With the Vivid systems, we have consistently evolved technology to elevate clinical solutions for efficiency, productivity, and conclusive diagnosis. Today, I am excited to be standing in front of you to launch the most advanced Vivid systems till date, the Ultra Edition, which is powered by artificial intelligence and elevated by you. The Ultra Edition version of Vivid is ultra precise, offering uncompromised image quality and advanced visualization capabilities for precise diagnosis. Ultra fast. With AI-based automation tools, Echo is going to be easy, fast, and accurate, improving the workflow efficiency, reducing inter-observer variability, and have consistency across Echo Lab environment. And ultra efficient. With advanced quantification tools across Vivid product portfolio, we tend to improve the clinical diagnosis across patient spectrum for better clinical outcome and patient care. Over a period of time, we would like to take you through series of clinical modules from eminent clinicians from South Asia. Today, I would like to welcome Dr. Mani Vazhagam, Chief Cardiologist and Director at Heart and Cure Heart, Trichy. Dr. Mani Vazhagam has done significant work in the field of clinical cardiology and is very passionate about exploring the heart. We are really privileged to have him with us. With this, I hand over the session to Dr. Mani Vazhagam.
Good evening, friends. And I should thank the Wipro GE people for having given me the opportunity to talk about my experience regarding the newer modalities. The topic is Echo Beyond EF, from diagnosis to prognosis. As early as in 1960, left ventriculography and indicator dilution techniques enabled the estimation of LV volumes and ejection fraction. Ejection fraction takes into account Frank Starling's law. The word ejection fraction deep-rooted in our mind till today as a benchmark of parameter in assessing LV systolic function. You should remember, EF is a volumetric assessment. As a LV systolic marker, it has got immense role regarding decision making, either diagnostic, therapeutic, and diagnostic. It has got a pivotal role in giving instruction to the interventionists and the electrophysiologists for implantation of devices. It gives you pivotal role in directing the cardiothoracic surgeon regarding outcomes of surgery, post-operative status, pre-operative indications, intraoperative complications, so on and so forth. And EF can be measured by so many methods. Time-honored method is M-mode method by Tichol's method. But when you cut this LV parasternal long axis, it will be of oblique cut. It is not useful, EF. When you cut in the short axis, somebody used to do it in a hurry-burry so that we do not know where we are cutting the LV. And this is the current modality that is called anatomical M-mode, where it cuts perpendicularly to the interventricular septum, cavity, and the posterior valve. This gives you accurate information of ejection fraction when you use M-mode. But unfortunately, as per Chamber Guidelines 2015, this M-mode method, Tichol's method, is no longer valid. Then how to get ejection fraction? There are other methods like modified Simpson's method by two-chamber method, and currently we are using automatic edge detection biplane method, and this is more sensitive and easier to do when compared to modified Simpson's. Of course, the gold standard of ejection fraction is 3D rendered ejection fraction. You should know about the caveats and the limitations and drawbacks of ejection fraction before we rely solely on the ejection fraction. It has got physiological limitations, that is load dependent, preload, afterload dependent, difficult at high and low heart rates, regurgitant lesions give you falsely high ejection fraction, small cavity situations like hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, LVH due to hypertension, aortic stenosis, they tend to give you over estimation of ejection fraction. And coming to the technical considerations, image quality is of paramount importance. Geometric alteration will affect the ejection fraction. You should know that the basic of ejection fraction is LV is assumed as prolet ellipse shape. When the shape is altered, as in case of dilated cardiomyopathy, more or less spherical, this physics will not work there. You will get erroneously ejection fraction. Moreover, in the setting of acute myocardial infarction, one area is aneurysmally dilated, another area is akinetic, one area is hyperkinetic. In that situation, geometry variation, it will not give you proper ejection fraction. Electromechanical delay and mechanical dyssynchrony, electromechanical dyssynchrony leads to, as in LVB, it will not give you true picture of ejection fraction. Irregular IR interval, as you know, in atrial fibrillation with fast ventricular response, it will lead to erroneous ejection fraction estimation. Coming to the clinical considerations, regarding prognosis, it loses its prognostic power when the ejection fraction is around about 50 and more. When the ejection fraction is 40 and below, it has got implication on the prognosis. And lastly, this is a more vital point, subtle change in the LV systolic function, like that of subclinical LV dysfunction, cannot be identified by ejection fraction. Currently, we are living in an era where people want to identify their diseases quite early before the catastrophe occurs. They are very keen in identifying the disease process early before the disease deteriorates or complicates. Few decades back, we were aware of only two types of failure. One is whether the heart is dilated and ejection fraction is decreased. We call it as systolic heart failure. The second variety is hypertrophied heart, small cavity, ejection fraction is normal or slightly increased. We call it as diastolic heart failure. Based on the pressure volume loop, shift to the right and shift to the left, we call it as systolic and diastolic heart failure. Now we have got an array of phenotypes of ejection fraction. Interpretation of EF is more difficult than its calculation. Now, based on the ejection fraction, we have got variety of heart failure. One is heart failure with reduced ejection fraction less than 40, 40 to 49 ejection fraction gets heart failure with mid-range, equal to or more than 50% EF heart failure with preserved ejection fraction. Recent trials done on various drugs on the treatment effect of ejection fraction, like Paragon and Paradigm, using sacubitril/valsartan combination, Topcat trial using spironolactone, beta blocker trialist, Charm trial using candesartan. All these trials clearly point out one cutoff point, that is ejection fraction and 55%. So this 55%, below the 55%, all these drugs act on the neurohumoral modulators and effectively improve the ejection fraction and symptomatology. This 55% ejection fraction. If it is more than 55%, the neurohumoral modulators and these drugs do not improve the ejection fraction. That clearly indicates 55% is the cutoff. The latest study involving more than 3,50,000 routine echoes done by various people, MBBS people, or echocardiographers, or physicians and cardiologists done at various centers. They compared the left ventricular ejection fraction with mortality. When you look at this graph, the mortality decreased when the ejection fraction improved. This is the mortality curve. And reaching the nadir point, that is around 65%. That means they point to say that 65% is the safest ejection fraction. So this is a newer confusion, because so far we are thinking 55 is the normal ejection fraction. Now they tend to say this is 65 is the safest ejection fraction. Unfortunately, this study indirectly told us that along with the 65, if it is 68, 70, 75, again the mortality increased. That creates a new kind of phenotype of ejection fraction or heart failure, that is called heart failure with supranormal ejection fraction. This is a newer variety. So we have got a lot of confusions regarding EF number and its variety and its pitfalls. Now we are badly in need of one more tool to identify the LV ejection fraction accurately, and it will give you better prognostic index than the LV ejection fraction. As you see this prognostic value of echocardiographic parameter, we started with EF, tissue Doppler with global longitudinal strain, and tissue Doppler, global longitudinal strain, and global circumferential strain. These are all the giving you the incremental value of echocardiographic parameters. Here, now we are starting with global longitudinal strain, which is a newer parameter which gives you better information than the ejection fraction. What are all the benefits of AFI, or automatic functional imaging, or 2D strain, or spectral tracking imaging? Global longitudinal strain is less operator dependent, less repeat test variability, less influenced by preload, afterload, and heart rate. This is more important. It is more advantageous in sequential follow-up cases as in cancer chemotherapy treatment, decision making before ICD, valvular heart disease before surgery and after surgery. More than that, this is most important parameter of advantage of global longitudinal strain. That is, it can identify subclinical LV dysfunction earlier before the LV dysfunction falls. This is the need of the hour. As we know, people are aggressive in identifying the disease in the early process than in the delayed process. It is well validated against cardiac gold standard like CMR and sonomicrometry. You should remember AFI is a myocardial imaging, EF is volumetric imaging. Initial testing was done, initial experience was done in coronary artery disease AFI. Looking at this bullseye parameter, one tool, I am able to tell you this area is normally functioning. This is -17 to -21 like that. And this area is an ischemic segment. This area is an infarct segment. This pale white color is an infarct segment. This blue color is a dyskinetic segment. Looking at one parameter, one diagram, I am able to tell you the segmental information as well as global information. Whereas this patient's global strain is -15.1. This is abnormal. Anything less than 16, less than means -15, -14 like that. Anything less than 16 is abnormal. Not only that, AFI is able to give you area of territory of coronary artery disease. In this example, this is an LAD territory. Some other patient, this is LCX artery territory infarction. This is RCA territory infarction. Previously, we were telling about the segmental value as well as global value. Now we are giving stressing importance to the global value rather than segmental value. The reason you will see later. Coming to your sequential follow-up and the subclinical detection, subclinical dysfunction detection. This is a cancer chemotherapy patient. Before starting doxorubicin, this is the basal echocardiographic parameter. And looking at this parameter, and the ejection fraction is 78 by M-mode method, 64 by biplane method, 21.9 in this case in the AFI patient. Whereas after 3 weeks after doxorubicin therapy, when we repeated the echo, ejection fraction was 78, no change. EF by 2 times, that is biplane method, is 62, no significant change. Whereas global longitudinal strain fell from 21.8 to 17.6. When you compare the absolute drop in global longitudinal strain from 21.8 to 17.6, the absolute drop in longitudinal strain is 19% in this case. What is the criteria for identifying subclinical LV dysfunction? One is fall in ejection fraction less than 10% of the previous thing, or ejection fraction less than 53. If it is there, you can say this is chemotherapy related cardiac dysfunction. If the relative drop in GLS, if it is less than 8, that means there is no subclinical LV dysfunction. You can proceed with the second dose of chemotherapy. If the relative drop is more than 15%, that means this patient has got significant subclinical LV dysfunction. We have to warn the medical oncologist about this. He will either stop the chemotherapy or switch over to some other chemotherapeutic agent, or he will start with the reduced dose, or simultaneously he will start with the cardioprotective agents like carvedilol, ARBs, or dexamethasone, which will protect the myocardium from injurious effects of chemotherapeutic agents. Coming to practical experience, day-to-day experience, and global longitudinal strain. This is an hypertensive heart, ejection fraction 76, 64 in two methods, absolutely normal ejection fraction, but GLS is grossly reduced. This is the advantage of global longitudinal strain. It will give you well in advance, some 3 to 5 years before the deterioration of actual myocardial deterioration. Approximately 3 to 5 years, it will give you deterioration of LV dysfunction. Coming to the diabetic heart, ejection fraction 61, ejection fraction 58 by two methods, absolutely normal ejection fraction. But if you do AFI, the ejection fraction is less than 16%. That means this LV dysfunction is gradually deteriorating. If you are not doing AFI in this patient, doing conventional echocardiogram, this patient will automatically deteriorate and will lead to diabetic cardiomyopathy soon. Coming to the valvular lesions, aortic stenosis, ejection fraction is 74, and this is a severe aortic stenosis. Global longitudinal strain is grossly reduced. In the valvular lesions, 2D strain gives you two informations. One is telling you the timing of surgery, another is prognostication in the case of valvular lesions. In this example, global longitudinal strain is minus 14.6. Global longitudinal strain, if it is more than 15%, the event-free survival rate is more when it is more than 15. Event-free survival rate is less when it is less than 15. This is one more parameter. This is called basal longitudinal strain average. Instead of global, you take the basal strains alone. If you average that, if it is less than 13, it is a poor prognostic index. So it is indirectly telling you the timing of surgery and also the prognostic indication for surgical results. Coming to the regurgitation lesion, normal ejection fraction, GLS is grossly reduced, and severe mitral regurgitation. Aortic regurgitation, severe eccentric aortic regurgitation, abdominal aorta reversal, ejection fraction is 66, global longitudinal strain is significantly reduced. The cutoff for GLS varies from valvular diseases. For aortic stenosis, it is somewhere around 14 to 15. For MR, it is 18 to 19. For aortic regurgitation, even a normal GLS is an indicator of LV dysfunction. Coming to a prognostic indicator of global longitudinal strain, this is the post-infarction failure patient. Global longitudinal strain gravely reduced, minus 3.7. And the ejection fraction of this individual is 22. So when the global longitudinal strain is less than 8, it is a grave prognostic index. 5-year mortality is 50%. If it is between 8.1 to 12.5, it is somewhere around 38%. If it is between more than 12.5, it is 34%. Coming to the prognostic indices of ejection fraction, this is the ejection fraction bar. And this is the ejection fraction plus global longitudinal strain, all-cause mortality prognostication. And the third bar is a newer parameter that is called global longitudinal strain plus global myocardial work index. This is a newer tool to identify the myocardial dysfunction as well as a potential prognosticator regarding myocardial diseases. What is this global myocardial work? If you introduce any newer parameter, it should have an additive or incremental value over the already existing parameters. This is the ejection fraction, Doppler study. This is the 2D strain values. And this is the global myocardial work indices, where global myocardial work scores over the rest of the things, ejection fraction, global strain. And it gives you incremental prognostic value regarding the all-cause mortality when compared to EF and GLS. also incremental prognostic value over the repeated heart failure hospitalization. So it indirectly proves this newer modality is far more superior than the ejection fraction and GLS, and we will see shortly what is that newer modality. Christopher Russell in 2012, he looked at the pressure volume loop. Instead of pressure and volume relationship, he wanted to acquire non-invasively the pressure outside the cath lab. So he introduced the animal models, and where he got the LV pressure from non-invasive method, which was agreement with the estimated pressure with measured pressure. This is a correlation between measured pressure in the cath lab and the estimated pressure in the echocardiographic lab. There was a significant correlation between the animal. See, first he conducted in the animal models. There was a significant good agreement between the measured left ventricular pressure and the estimated left ventricular pressure as a function of in all animals. Then he decided to collide with, instead of pressure volume loop, he wanted to construct pressure strain loop. And how to get this pressure strain loop? See, that is the day-to-day affair now. First you do routine echocardiography, M-mode echocardiography, 2D echocardiography, Doppler echocardiography, color-directed Doppler echocardiography, and lastly the strain imaging. Incidentally, you incorporate brachial systolic pressure in the patient data itself, so that the pressure will be fed to the computer in the software in the echocardiographic machine, and the 2D strain parameters by three chamber view, 4 chamber view, and 2 chamber view gives you peak systolic strain, and these two things incorporated in the software, that gives you a loop. Instead of pressure volume loop, it gives you pressure strain loop. So this is in agreement with, this is an estimated pressure strain loop, and this is a measured pressure strain loop in the cath lab. So this is how we are doing myocardial work. This pressure strain loop is the sheet anchor for future generation of so many information. And you should know, from peak systolic strain, it has got 3 new derivatives. First derivative is post-systolic index. This is a marker of ischemic heart disease. And peak systolic strain, this is a marker of time to peak interval. See, when the interval is more than certain limits, for example, 62, 53, like that, it gives you 3 informations. Number 1 is it gives you non-invasive estimation of fibrosis in the myocardium. So long we were relying on CMR to identify fibrosis and the location of the fibrosis. Along with that, if the number exceeds particular value, this predicts sudden cardiac death. This is an estimation of sudden cardiac death in future, non-invasive method. Third one is it gives you all-cause mortality, the predictor of mortality, sudden cardiac death, and identification of fibrosis. Soon you will be hearing more about this peak systolic dispersion or mechanical dispersion. Now the latest derivative of peak systolic strain or strain value is pressure strain loop. From this we are going to get so many informations. What is the basic of pressure strain loop? This is the mitral valve closure, aortic valve opening, ejection fraction, that is the ejection phase, that is systole, aortic valve closure, and mitral valve opening. This is the diastole, and this is the systolic event. Coming to the proper method, from the peak systolic strain, the machine will give you bullseye of different models. This is the myocardial work index bullseye. Normally it should be parrot green or apple green throughout all the segments. That means there is disease-free segment. The second is apple green. This is called work efficiency. We will see what the definition means. Work efficiency is again bullseye with green, parrot green appearance. The third parameter is most important of all these parameters is constructive work of the myocardium. This is again given in the form of bar. and this is again parrot green. The fourth thing is, this is blue chart. This is wasted work. All these parameters other than work efficiency are expressed in the form of millimeters of mercury. The work efficiency alone will be expressed in the form of percentage. We will now move on to the different components definition. What does it total myocardial work denotes? This is a PSL. This is pressure strain loop area calculated from mitral valve closure to mitral valve opening. This is average myocardial systolic function. This gives you average function. Global constructive work, total myocardial work contributing to the pump function, the total myocyte shortening during systole and lengthening during isovolumic relaxation. This is what it means. Global wasted work, work that does not contribute to the ejection or systole, elongation of myocyte during systole that happens in LVB and dilated cardiomyopathy, shortening against the closed aortic valve, that means post-systolic shortening is a wasted work. These two works are called wasted work. They combine together to form a global wasted work. The last one is work efficiency. This is nothing but global constructive work divided by constructive work plus global wasted work into 100. That gives you in the form of percentage. With these definitions, we will move how these parameters are going to decide about the disease process. What are all the normal variants? At a glance, this is a shortcut route. Work index is approximately 1900. Constructive work 2200 millimeters of mercury. Wasted work it is between 80 to 90. Work efficiency is between 94 to 90. These are all normal values. When it is become abnormal, when it is less than, work index less than 1270, less than 1650 in the male, in the female it has got slightly different values. Myocardial wasted work more than 238 is abnormal cutoff. When the work efficiency, when it is less than 90, that means this is an abnormal LV systolic function. Coming to the application proper. In 2018, estimation of myocardial work from pressure strain loop analysis and experimental evaluation. The human experimental evaluation was started during 2018. 2019, myocardial work by echocardiography, a novel method ready for clinical test. That means this is ready for clinical test from 2019 onwards. First clinical material was assessing the patient with LVB or dilated cardiomyopathy for CRT implantation. This 53-year-old lady came with paroxysmal features of congestive heart failure with poor LV dysfunction and LVB with more than 120 milliseconds duration. What is the indication for CRT? Clinical congestive heart failure features, ejection fraction less than 35%, LVB more than 120 milliseconds, septal flash. This is septal flash and apical rocking. These are all the features of dilated cardiomyopathy, LVB with dilated cardiomyopathy. In this patient, all these are present. And this is the current indication for CRT. But unfortunately, 30 to 40% of the people who already had implant of CRT, they are not responding to CRT. This non-responder rate is somewhere around 30 to 40%. We are bothered about this non-responder rate. We want to improve the responder rate. That is the role played by these myocardial work indices. So this patient's ejection fraction is grossly reduced, elevated LV EDP. And look at the other chambers, left atrial function is grossly impaired. Yes, reservoir strain is 20, ejection fraction is 42. Right ventricle is also has dysfunction. Looking at the myocardial work indices, this is myocardial work index, and this is the septal area which is blue in color. That means severe LV segmental as well as overall LV dysfunction in these areas. Whereas lateral wall is somewhat protected and it compensates for the loss for the septal. This is the pathophysiology of the LBB with dilated cardiomyopathy. Septal work is affected, lateral work is preserved. So look at the efficiency. Septal work is affected, lateral work is somewhat preserved. Looking at the pressure strain loop, this is a normal individual's pressure strain loop. This patient's pressure strain loop is grossly reduced to PSL. Septal work, that is green. If you put the cursor over the septal region, the septal work is, that is PSL or pressure strain loop, is grossly crenated in septal area, whereas lateral area works better. And this is the cursor I have put on the septal area. This is the green area, that is septal work, and the green area in the lateral work. And this is how the LV works in LBB with dilated cardiomyopathy patient. Coming to the constructive work, this is the constructive work of the average construction work of this individual. But look at the septal work, this is grossly reduced. Look at the wasted work of septum, this is grossly increased. Look at the lateral wall work, septal work is increased and the lateral work is increased, and the lateral work is, wasted work is decreased in the lateral wall. So this is the message of these various parameters, how we are going to interpret these parameters to the CRT responding parameter. Clinical features, ECG features, ejection fraction, septal flash. These are all the responders for CRT. Currently, now we are having certain factors. This global constructive work, which is more important as long as CRT is concerned or any other disease process is concerned. When the constructive work is more than 1057 millimeters of mercury, this patient will respond to CRT therapy, and this is a marker of contractile reserve, or it is a marker of viability. So now there is a study that which strongly correlates the myocardial metabolism, glucose metabolism in the segmental glucose metabolism as correlated with the FDG PET scan. The segmental glucose metabolism is correlated with global myocardial work indices, as well as constructive work is correlated with peak oxygen consumption and also the myocardial viability. So this is how the constructive work is playing a pivotal role in identifying responders. Coming to the constructive work value, more than 888, this is a crucial number. If it is more than 888 with septal flash, along with septal flash, this patient will benefit from CRT. If it is less than 888, septal flash is absent, this patient is dismissal criteria for the CRT responders. This patient should be referred to cardiac transplant and for device therapy. The supplementing factors ka work efficiency when it is less than 75%, wasted work it is more than 384 millimeter of mercury. These are all additional parameters of identification of CRT responders. These are all the various trials, studies proving the responder rate. When the myocardial work efficiency is less than 75, poor prognostic index. More than 75, it is a better prognostic index. When the constructive work is less than 880, freedom from all this cardiac death and of all patients, cardiac death plus all-cause mortality is increased when it is less than 880. More than 888, better prognosis. And this is septal flash with constructive work. Again, if it is septal flash minus plus constructive work less than 888, grave prognosis and dismissal criteria for CRT response. And this patient should be referred to, already told you, cardiac transplant and device therapy. Coming to the day-to-day practice, we come across hypertensive heart disease. This is a recent onset hypertension of 15 days duration. A patient is totally asymptomatic. This is his ejection fraction, and this is the E by E by ratio is normal, and global longitudinal strain is perfect, and it is normal. Then look at this myocardial work in this pattern, bullseye. You could see a green area along with that, you could see a red predominant area of most of the myocardial segments. So far in our experience, we have heard about, we have read about the myocardial remodeling. This is the first experience I am giving you so that you can see what is happening in the myocardium in this patient. This is in the disease process, the risk factors and adverse hemodynamic factors. Risk factors, I mean hypertension, diabetes, alcohol, dyslipidemia, so on and so forth. Adverse hemodynamic factors like valvular stenosis or regurgitation. All these things insult the myocardium first. This creates histological and metabolic changes in the myocardium, subsequently leads to myocardial hypertrophy and apoptosis and metabolic derangement. This leads to LV hypertrophy or eccentric remodeling, and whatever may be the thing, this is a poor prognostic index. This is a route for future cardiac dysfunction. The earlier changes, these are called myocardial physiological response to neurohumoral modulators. This physiological response is otherwise known as adaptive remodeling. In this case of hypertension of new onset, left ventricle segments are protecting the left segment from adapting and giving you more work on the most of the segments and gives you better outlook for this patient. So this is the red area performance. It works more than the green area. This is the adaptive remodeling response to new onset hypertension. LA ejection fraction is normal, strain is normal. And coming to the chronic hypertension, and this is 5-year-old hypertension, concentric hypertrophy with ejection fraction normal. Ejection fraction by another method is normal. Elevated LV EDP more than 21.6. That means this explains the shortness of breath, recent onset shortness of breath. And unfortunately, the global longitudinal strain is grossly reduced. Look at the myocardial work indexes. Work efficiency is normal, 95%. This is normal. But work index, when you look at, there is an inhomogeneous, heterogeneous response to the myocardium. Segmental performance, some of the segments are dysfunctioning, some of these segments are hyperfunctioning, some of them are normal. This inhomogeneity in the performance of the myocardial work denotes some amount of fibrosis is going on as a remodeling process. This is an example of adverse remodeling. Previously we have seen positive remodeling are called adaptive remodeling. Look at this blue area, and there is work is reduced, grossly reduced. Look at this red area, the work is enhanced. The LA ejection fraction is decreased. LA reservoir strain is decreased. You know the recent algorithm for the assessment of left atrial dysfunction or heart failure with preserved ejection fraction. Apart from LA volume index more than 34 ml per meter square, TR velocity more than 2.8 meters per second, and global that is E by E average more than 14. The fourth parameter is reservoir strain of less than 20 is the parameter for assessing the heart failure with preserved ejection fraction. Coming to the diabetes, nothing more to say. This is a normal ejection fraction, 5-year-old diabetic, strain rate and everything is normal, and the strain parameters are normal. And look at the myocardial index, red zone we are seeing. That means this patient is undergoing positive remodeling, and that means this is ongoing adaptive remodeling is going on. That means myocardium responds to the insult earlier in the myocardial disease progression, which we are not seeing it in the day-to-day echocardiographic parameter. Coming to this, when you put the cursor on this is the normal thing. When you put the cursor on this area of reddish color, this performance is good. Look at the other parameters. Work index is normal, constructive work is normal, work efficiency is normal, but wasted work is gradually increasing. That means some sort of fibrosis is slowly stepping in. Coming to the myocardial work and acute coronary syndrome. Acute coronary syndrome with ST segment elevation is an easier process, so that we can give reperfusion at an early hour, either thrombolysis or cath lab PCI techniques. But unfortunately, in the non-STA STEMI infarction, they buy some long time to identify the coronary artery disease. This happens in this lady. More than 3 days duration, chest pain, shortness of breath, and the ejection fraction has already dropped to 42%. E by E prime increased, and GLS is grossly reduced. Look at this myocardial index. These blue areas denote there is a significant segmental dysfunction. Acute coronary occlusion results in two things. One is ischemia, another is fall in segmental LV dysfunction. If the area of segment is more than equal to or more than 4 segments, adjoining segments are there, in this case, more than 4 segments are affected, and the global myocardial index value is less than 1700, and this gives you the area of infarct. In this case, this is an LAD LCX territory infarct. So it identifies functional risk area. This is called functional risk area. So in this case of acute myocardial infarction, the functional risk area it gives you equal to more than 4 segmental involvement. The value of work is less than 1700 millimeters of mercury. This is a clear-cut identification of acute coronary syndrome. Look at this example. Work index is reduced to less than 1700. Constructive work is reduced. Wasted work is increased. Work efficiency is also decreased in this case. This is the myocardial pressure strain loop of normal individual, of this individual. And this is the story of other chambers. Right ventricle is deteriorated, function is deteriorated, left atrial function is deteriorated. Looking at the advanced heart failure and the myocardial indexes. This is patient with post-infarction failure, diabetes of more than 25 years, coronary angio, vessel anatomy not suitable for bypass surgery, already maximum target-oriented drugs are already given. Look at the ejection fraction, grossly reduced, global longitudinal strain grossly reduced. Coming to the myocardial, other chambers, left atrium is function is greatly reduced, right ventricle function is grossly reduced. This is the pressure strain loop of this individual, normal pressure strain loop. This individual's pressure strain loop, totally LV dysfunction, LV function, LV pressure strain loop is crenated, and almost no area is functioning. This is a blue, totally blue area except one segment of green color. Totally brown area, myocardial work efficiency is totally affected. How about the prognosis in this patient? Global myocardial work index, if it is less than 750 millimeters of mercury, in this case is 271, poor prognostic index. Global myocardial work less than 455, in this case less than 455. Constructive work is less than 530, in this case constructive work is 429. This is a clear-cut indicator of submitting the patient for transplant and left ventricular device therapy. This patient's prognosis is very, very bad. And this is a candidate for transplant. These are all evidences for constructive work and the work indexes. And this is the prognostication of myocardial work index less than 750. More than 750 will do better than the less than 750. Coming to the hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. This is a 22-year-old male. His father died of sudden cardiac death. He already is my patient, was my patient. He had hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. Look at the hypertrophic cardiomyopathy picture. Look at these strain parameters. Look at the myocardial work indices. Inhomogeneous in the performance of the ventricle segments. This is an adverse working segment. This is normally working segment. This is hyper segment. This inhomogeneity or heterogeneity of the myocardial segmental work is hallmark of hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. And this is work efficiency also reduced. Global constructive work is reduced. Global work index is reduced. What is the guideline? Global work index will be reduced in hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. Constructive work will be reduced. Work efficiency will be reduced from 90, it has become 85. whereas wasted work is 168. That indirectly tells you that there is myocardial disarray and falling wasted work. And what is the number that is going to help you? Constructive work is more than 1730 better survival of hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. And when the constructive work is less than 1623 in this case, this is the only predictor of myocardial fibrosis. Previously, we have seen CMR is the predictor of myocardial fibrosis. Myocardial mechanical dispersion is the predictor of myocardial fibrosis. The third parameter is constructive work is a predictor of myocardial fibrosis. Final example is aortic stenosis case. This is an exertional dyspnea, giddiness, LVH is there, concentric LVH, aortic stenosis severe, ejection fraction is normal. LVF ejection fraction is compromised, LVA reservoir strain is compromised, right ventricle is slightly compromised, and strain work is compromised. Look at the myocardial work indices. And this is the normal working segments, and this is remodeling segments in this case. Still, after a few years of aortic stenosis, severe aortic stenosis, some of the myocardial segments are going for positive remodeling or adaptive remodeling, so that still this patient has got normal global work index, normal constructive work. Because of the fibrosis and wasted work is increased here, 127, normal is somewhere around 90. Work efficiency is still preserved. According to these parameters, this is the high time for this patient. Don't wait for the symptomatology. If you submit this patient for aortic valve replacement, 10% he will come around, because there is a favorable myocardial indices in this case. And this is a hypercontractile, this is a hypocontractile area. Admixture of three areas are there because of the fibrosis. And this is the hypokinetic, hypofunctioning area, and this is our hyperfunctioning area. And with this, I conclude my lecture. And previously, we have seen an experimental work going on in 2018, whether it is suitable for clinical testing in 2019. After receiving all the day-to-day clinical materials and parameters and how myocardial work is useful in the day-to-day practice, by 2020, Vijay Kandaria said whether the myocardial work works, he said it works. So with this, I conclude my lecture, and some clarifications. Before you go for myocardial work proper, doing to myocardial work, you should be master in two things. Your strain values should be absolutely normal. For that, you should have a robust 2D strain which clearly delineates endocardial border. Don't use electronic BP apparatus to test the systolic BP, because most of the parameters are taking into account the brachial systolic pressure correlates with peak LV systolic pressure, unless there is LV outflow gradient or unless there is an aortic stenosis. You may be wondering how I am putting a case of aortic stenosis. I will answer it at in the question and answer format. So hypertrophic obstructive cardiomyopathy and aortic stenosis should be ruled out prior to applying this myocardial work. And finally, this work is different from myocardial index. Work is a combination of force against length. That gives you absolute work. Whereas in this case, we are forcing against the pressure, forcing against the strain, pressure-strain relationship, whereas work is a force-length relationship. So that is not equivalent to work. That is why they have fixed an work index. This is almost according to the work, more or less similar results with that of work. For that, future is work incorporating the wall stress, radii curvature of the left ventricle and radii of left ventricle. Apart from longitudinal strain, you should incorporate left ventricular circumferential strain value, circumferential fiber strain also you should include, so that we will get a better myocardial work indices than right now what we are using. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for the very informative session. So now we'll go for the Q&A, sir. So the first question, role of echo in pre-assessing improvements of outcome of revascularization in low EF patient.
Low EF revascularization, role of
Echo in pre-assessing improvement outcome of revascularization in low EF patients. Sir?
And the constructive work is still, it has to be remain. The constructive work is okay. I will submit the patient for revascularization because this is the current tool of constructive work, gives you oxygen consumption and viability. That is more important for revascularization. So that I will rely on constructive work. If it is normal, this patient surely he will be benefited from revascularization, even though the ejection fraction may be normal, reduced.
So why do we need to look beyond EF?
So EF, we already in the initial stages, we saw the drawbacks of ejection fraction. Then we relied on strain values. But strain values, what is more important in strain is, strain can be affected by the afterload. For example, if you increase the BP suddenly in that case, it will give you a reduction in strain so that the segmental work will be altered. Previously, we were relying on segmental work as well as global work on and the strain values. Now we are not sure the strain will be affected by the afterload. So now we have got a robust tool which will incorporate afterload as well as strain combination, which is more important than the already existing this. Already you should know from the global longitudinal strain, you should remember the subendocardially situated longitudinal fibers contribute to ejection fraction only 1/3. The circumferential fibers contribute to 2/3 of the ejection fraction. Till now, we are not incorporating circumferential fibers in the day-to-day practice because it needs a separate workstation, that is EchoPack. Till in the most of the echocardiographic machines, circumferential fibers, they are not included except 4D methods. So that is why the strain is more important than the ejection fraction. Then work indices are more important, or prognostic value. It gives you more information about the pathophysiology, prognostication, and incremental value to the ejection fraction and the strain values.
The 3-layer strain and how it is better than endocardium strain.
So this is an unexpected arrow. Anyhow, I will try to answer. So you have got myocardium is made up of 3 layers. One is epicardial layer, another is mid-myocardial layer, third is endocardial layer. This mid-endocardial layer is made up of circumferential fibers. Epicardial and endocardial layers are sponsored by longitudinal fibers. So, if there will be a gradient from when you go from endocardium to epicardium, naturally the epicardial layers strain will be reduced, whether it is due to conventional myocardial texture architecture or the this is pre-existing or adhering pericardium is constraining the strain of the, because pericardium is inert. So inert pericardium which is attached to the epicardium may give you lower results of strain in the epicardium. Whereas in the endocardium, it will be subjected to left high pressure and the metabolic need of endocardial layers, that is longitudinal layers, are good. They have got potency to improve the strain values. And third factor explanation they are giving is preferential blood flow to the endocardium. So endocardial blood flow is more than the epicardial blood flow. Endocardial strain is, hence endocardial performance is more. That is why there is a gradient. Approximately, if you want to say the strain values of layer strain, 15 to 16 is the epicardial layer strain. 17 to 18 is mid-myocardial strain. 19 to 20 is the endocardial strain values, approximately. This is the lowest value. I am telling you the lowest value. There will be a gradient from when you go from base to the apex. Basal values will be reduced, mid values are somewhat in between, apical values will be more. This is again gradient. There is the latest variety is endocardial to epicardial ratio. And this is a newly coming subject, which will be more in the apex, so that it will give you more information about hypertrophied heart. For example, left ventricular hypertrophy, hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, and aortic stenosis with hypertrophy. The endocardial to epicardial ratio will vary according to the disease status, so that it will be of useful to us. So we need more details regarding this layered strain. I think with this, I have convinced you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. So, like, can we assess EF by bullseye and how much reliable?
EF by bullseye.
Yes, sir.
You mean to say peak systolic strain bullseye?
Yes, sir.
So no direct relationship was established except one study from Thomas Marwick group. He only compared the global wall strain work indexes and the ejection fraction and the GLS. He concluded when the GLS is less than 12, minus 12%, GLS is less than 12%, the ejection fraction will be around less than 35%. When the GLS is less than 9 or 8, your ejection fraction will be approximately less than 22%. This is the only reference I could see from Thomas Marwick group.
Yes, sir. The treatment for heart failure with preserved EF.
Still, there are a lot of things are going on, but because I am working in myocardial work indices, there are some lights are thrown, because when we put the patient on spironolactone therapy, on ARBS therapy, and like that, sacubitril valsartan combination, we could see improvement in segmental work in this group. So there is a hope for this group, even though the Paragon and Paradigm trials did not give you positive results regarding these drugs information. But myocardial work indices clearly tell you the sequential follow-up after these patients' treatment. There is significant improvement in myocardial indices. Hence, I can say in the future, we can rely on myocardial work indices. And today we have got evidence to say that spironolactone and all these sacubitril valsartan combinations, they improve the segmental as well as global ejection fraction.
The significance of LA strain reservoir, conduit, and contraction phase.
LA strain of these, the contraction phase and conduit phase, in the case of pumping function, it comes into play when there is high LV EDP. The pumping function, that figures will be increased whenever there is abnormal increase in LV filling pressure. More than that, the reservoir fraction is more important. This gives you additional information about the various pathologies and various prognostication. When the reservoir strain is less than 21, less than 19, like that, if it goes, this is a candidate that is going to develop atrial fibrillation. When the reservoir strain is less than 20, this is an indication for heart failure with preserved ejection fraction. When the reservoir strain is going to give you whether it improves after the adequate diuresis or not, or whether the drugs will improve the reservoir functions, reduce the left LV EDP, we have to see. Regarding conduit functions and the contractile function, much work should be done. Moreover, recently they are doing LA strain and all these functions in the resting state as well as in the post-exercise state. When the post-exercise state, when the conduit and the contractile function or pumping function of the left atrium is not improving, means this is a poor prognosis. As you said, left ventricular pumping fraction is more important for post-exercise situation. If it is contractile function is not improving, the prognosis is very, very bad.
Sir, LA strain and volume, should we be done in single plane or biplane? 4-chamber or 2-chamber?
See, currently we are doing so. Always when we do ejection fraction in the by Simpson's method, by automatic functional imaging, always you require 2 images, because one of the deformities or deformation of the ventricles can be missed. Ideal to do 3 chambers, 3 views in the same patient, but unfortunately the current machines give only 2-chamber views. One is 4-chamber and 2-chamber view. Always rely on the average of the 4-chamber and 2-chamber view than relying on 1-chamber view.
Sir, do you do 3D strain routinely?
Routinely, I am not doing right now. In compromised patients and interesting cases like the hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, dilated cardiomyopathy, post-infarction situations, when the ejection fraction is grossly reduced, I am doing this 4D strain routinely in all those cases. But normal patients, pre-surgical cardiac evaluation, pre-anesthetic requirement, I don't do 4D regularly.
Sir, like one last question, sir.
Okay,
Have you
sir.
recorded myocardial work after CRT? Have you demonstrated normalization?
Till now, I am yet to get that CRT patient, because I am a poor cardiologist sitting in one of the district headquarters. I have no corporate backup. I am not working in a medical college setup, so that I can have CRT implantation and can have a follow-up patients. Unfortunately, I don't have right now any slide to say CRT improvement, and there are papers to say there is significant improvement in global constructive work after CRT. There are so many papers are there.
Yes, sir. Thanks a lot, sir. So thank you for the very informative session, sir.
Okay, sir.
We got a great reception from audience. I'm sure the clinical cases are going to help our viewers in their practice. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Kiran,
to all
for your
viewers.
nice words. Thank you, Kiran. Thank you.